Good afternoon, Good Shepherd. My name is Pat. I haven't had a chance to meet many of you yet. You see, I'm part of the new member COVID class of 2020, and it wasn't very long after I joined Good Shepherd that things started to slow down. However, I do look forward to the day when we gather in person again and I get the chance to meet many of you. Today I wanted to talk about reimagine and what that word means to me. But before I do, I did pick out a verse that I would like to share with you. And for those of you that have listened to the Ash Wednesday sermon, you might get a little bit of insight into me and into why I picked this particular verse. But if you hadn't, that's okay, because it stands on its own pretty well. So for the verse that I chose, I picked Galatians chapter 6, verse 9, and it goes like this. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. I like that. It's clear, concise, and really hits home with me. So I hope you enjoy that as well. A little background on myself. I grew up in the Lutheran Church in Western New York. My family was very active in the church, and I was very active in the youth group. In fact, a lot of my friends in my teenage years were directly from that youth group. And 30-some years later, there's still 3 individuals that I'm friends with and communicate with on a regular basis. One of those actually introduced me to my wife. And so I think that's kind of a special tie back to my youth and church days. Flash forward to the fall of 2019. And at that point, both our boys had reached kind of adulthood and heading off to college. And as they were growing up, I felt it was important as a family that we went with my wife's denomination and raised our children at least in one style until they became adults and were free to choose their own religious path going forward. But over those years, I always felt like there was something missing about Lutheran Church. I can't quite put my finger on it, and even today I don't exactly know what that was. But in the fall of 2019, I had some personal challenges in my life. One of those being a parent that is kind of moving into Alzheimer's stage, and that certainly is not a pleasant event for a family. So at that time, it left me with kind of a need to get back to a religious base and get back and explore kind of my Lutheran roots and just see what that was about. Well, I really had a hard time trying to figure out where to get started. I'm not known for rapid change in my life. I typically go back to things that I know that are comfortable. So to get started, I thought, okay, Lutheran Church, and maybe I should pick the same synod that I grew up in. I don't know why, it just seemed to be the thing to do. And Good Shepherd was not that. But as I started looking at all the churches in the area, I kept coming back to Good Shepherd just because I would pass the building on a frequent basis and it looked welcoming and comforting. And I spent time going off to the website and just trying to get an idea about what this church is really about. And one of the things that really struck me, and if you haven't read it or haven't read it in a very long time, the What We Are About statement on the webpage was probably the biggest nudge to get me through the doors that very first time. And what I really liked about that is the repetition of we're glad you're here. And not just for the different reasons listed, but the statement of we're better for it that you're here and that we want you to be part of it. And I thought that was just such a incredibly welcome, inviting statement that really gave me the nudge the first time to come into church. Wow, that first service, it just seemed like a very comfortable experience, and after being away for 30 years, it seemed like I didn't miss a beat. It really was great. soon after, I had not made a decision, but I was kind of curious, and I had a meeting with PL and PM, and mainly to introduce myself and just get an idea of what would be involved to become a member. I had never changed from a church, and I had no clue. I had a membership that was 30 years old somewhere in Western New York. But they were great to talk to and great and helpful in the process to become a new member. And even at that point, I still wasn't totally convinced until one Sunday I came in. I'd like to say early, but really I probably was 2 minutes close to being late. And coming in the doors, one of the pastors said, "Good morning, Pat." And that was a huge impact to me because I hadn't experienced that in so long. And that just really tied back to kind of the statement of, "We're glad you're here." And so from that point, I decided to become a member. And it's been great. I have no regrets. I'm glad to be part of this community. But tying back to reimagine, for me, it's a little more of, along with reimagine, is getting out of your comfort zone. I was very nervous and unsure that first day coming in, but taking that leap of faith and getting into becoming uncomfortable really led to personal growth that I had not expected. So for me, there's kind of a tie with reimagine and personal comfort zone. So that was my message for today. I had three items that I wanted to leave you with. The first one is, if you're thinking on reimagining, reimagine kindness. Some of my experiences through the journey with my parent and the Alzheimer's situation is really looking at kind acts and things that I thought were simple before, simplify them even more. The smallest thing, the easiest gesture can really have an impact on people more than you think. So don't underestimate the ability of simple kind acts. The second one is get out of your comfort zone. And this will tie back to the Ash Wednesday service as well. You'll get an understanding of a challenge I'm getting ready to undertake. But what I found is things that I would not have normally done because I might have been nervous or reserved, I'm really fortunate for embracing being uncomfortable. And I'm very fortunate for the growth that has come through events such as that. The last item I wanted to leave you with is kind of a shameless plug, but it's more of give blood. Please give blood. The blood banks are really at thin supplies, a lot due to the lack of workplace blood donation drives, and that is so needed. Especially if you've had COVID, they are starting to gather convalescent plasma from people that have recovered from COVID, and it really is important in therapy to treat current COVID patients. So although we can't gather in person for volunteer activities, here is a safe way that can have a big impact on others. So with that, I just wanted to leave you with some words that I usually say to a lot of my friends, and that is take full advantage of today. Really do everything you can today, and don't waste time. Be kind to others. That's very important, and do good things. So with that, I'll sign off. Pat out.